the chat room so everybody has access to them. So if you have any questions from the audience, please be sure to type them in the chat room. I will be facilitating those questions throughout the presentation. So Dr. Peagram, please begin. Thank you and welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Paula, for the introduction. Does everyone can hear me okay? Perfect. Okay, so let's get started. So everyone, welcome. Tonight we are going to be focusing on workplace bullying and social media. We really want to give you some strategies and resources to enter a bully-free virtual world. So my slides will be available after our session, and if you need additional information or questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Here we go. So today's agenda. So we're going to talk about what's the definition of workplace bullying. We're going to go over the negative work environment, addressing workplace bullying. We're going to talk about how to intervene, report, and prevent. We came up with some numbers of the cost of bullying and statistics. I want to really review communicating online. So what makes us a good digital citizen? We're going to review the impact of social media in the workplace and talk about how to be a better self. So what is the difference between our virtual self and our private self? Have some concluding thoughts, and then I'll give you all my references for additional information. As we start, you want to use that chat box. I want to be more interactive, so with the questions you might have, please send them in the chat box so we can have this question answers as we go and not waiting till the end. So let's get started. So what is workplace bullying? So it's the same definition of bullying, but it's more in the workplace. So there's three important components. It's using your power over a period of time to intentionally harm someone else. So that means using your status, your role, your title, your rank, and it has to be with intention and over a period of time. So it's a behavior that threatens, intimidates, or humiliates someone else, and it happens at work. It could impact your reputation, your job performance, or even your career. So here's some statistics on workplace bullying. So you can see the figures that we have here. It's how many times people have enlisted in strategies to deal with workplace bullies. Another 50% said they stay away from them. 49% say they vent to others. Other people are working with them on projects. This is some things that commonly happen. And also, like, people often, 40% of people say that they plan to quit after thoughts of the impact of bullying. So there's so many different things and statistics about workplace bullying. I just want to show you some of the stats that are out there. So what can foster a hostile work environment? So obviously the first thing is a toxic work environment. Also unhealthy work competition. It's always good to have friendly work competition and have it an environment where you want to prosper and reach your goals, but unhealthy work competition can lead to bullying. Lack of communication. So when you don't talk to your direct reports, when you're not communicating, when there's no open lines, sometimes can foster an environment to bully. Sabotage. Strangely enough, mergers and acquisitions. So when you think about the corporate culture and then the different environments that we're in, when two organizations merge together, often there's two different corporate cultures. So if there's not a good integration program and there's not clarifications of roles, of what's next, and really strong communication, there might be an impact and there could lead to some bullying. I wanted to bring that up because often in the research it mentions that transitional change, organizational change, restructuring can often lead to unhealthy work habits and bullying. Definitely a lack of trust and respect is often an issue too. So I'll come back to this. I found this great video and it's linked to my website, but it is a little, it's about 6 minutes, and I know we started a little later today, so I want to make sure that we get through the content. If we have time today, come back to the video that I put together. It really gives an idea of like what is workplace bullying and then what are some strategies. So it's a 6-minute snippet, so I have the link here ready for you to go back to. So let's talk about addressing workplace bullying. Obviously the first point is to report it to HR. You know, strangely enough, with all the work I do in corporate and when I do a lot of the diversity training, people forget to document evidence. So, you know, saving emails, saving text messages is really critical. So what does it mean to document evidence is you really want to put the date, time, name, title, and factually what is occurring, because that's what's really important. Another thing you want to do to address workplace bullying is to regain your power. Often when I do my sessions, it's really important to understand what power means. So for example, if you're at your desk and let's say that you're being targeted and someone is bullying you, a simple strategy is to just stand up so that you're eye level with the perpetrator. It sounds ridiculous or silly, but it really is, power is displaced in different ways using body language, verbiage. So it's really important to regain your power. So simple strategy, someone is arguing with you, yelling at you, threatening you, and you're sitting there, standing, just stand up. It's the first step to regain your power. Another thing to address workplace bullying is to learn about the office politics. So what is some of the rituals you might have in place? What are some of the dynamics between your organization? Who reports to who? Like, what is the unknown in your organization? Because we have, like, you know, what we portray and also what is not discussed. So the espouse culture. So really find the difference between the lived and espouse culture and learn about the office politics. So that means that knowing who you need to talk to. And then also, if you take that choice, knowing who you don't want to talk to, who might take away your power or be toxic for you. So that's really important. You need to remind yourself of your own strengths. So tonight, I don't know how many people are within the industry that I am of organizational psychology, but we use this tool in my programs that I love. It's called the SWOT. It really identifies your strengths, your weaknesses, the threats that are in front of you, and the opportunities. I love to use this with my clients, and especially my leadership programs, because it's a tool that we use in change management or when you're on a new project, on a task. But if you use it for yourself, you can really identify what you're good at, what you're strong at, what makes you unique and stand out in the workplace. But then when you remind yourself of your strengths, it's good to look at, you know, the things that you might not be striving at, your weaknesses. So identifying those through the SWOT analysis can give you a good idea of like, hey, you know, I'm not too good at organizing my time. So maybe I should find some strategies and resources to help me, and that will empower my strengths. So those tools really help sometimes to look at the big picture with you and find what you're really good at. You need to find support in the workplace. So find a buddy, find someone that you have the same interests, the same career goals. You know, find a mentor. Really create that strong social support in the workplace. And then what's really important when I do coaching and I talk to my clients that have gone through some bullying incidents is really find the value in your own work. So why are you still in this organization? What do you add to the organization? What makes you important and what strives you to go to work every day? So finding that passion within yourself is really important. Let's talk about how to intervene. So one of the things is obviously you want to report the incidents to HR. So I often tell people, like, look at the processes and policies in place because every organization is different, and follow the proper channels to report it. Communicate with your team. Okay, so talk to other people. Address the incident. So share, like, you know, if you feel comfortable going to the perpetrator and like addressing what happened, you know, there must be a miscommunication, you know, this is what's going on. Again, regain your power is the most critical. So if it's confronting the perpetrator, if it's talking to your boss, if it's going above your boss and talking to someone else, find ways to regain your power. Learn about the organizational culture. So what is acceptable, what is talked about, what is not acceptable, and you know what, like try to find someone that in the organization that can help you. But you need to know the culture before you do that. So again, addressing the perpetrator. So you can do that face-to-face if you feel strong enough. You can go up to them and be like, you know, listen, hey, this is what's going on. I don't understand why these emails, texts, or these rumors or gossip that I'm hearing about me is happening. I want to better understand what I've done or how we can resolve this. So that's how you would address the perpetrator, not attacking them. Try to stay away from emotions or opinions and stick to facts, and try to fight to resolve versus fight to win. So that's one of the things that I really strive on, is you really want to try to find a compromise and a resolution versus just being right or putting someone on the spot. And then work on yourself. So to build a stronger character, find your strengths, know your areas that you might be more weak at, and have the right resources to support you. So any questions on how to intervene?
Hi, Dr. Peagram. Actually, we do have a question from Jahara Sanders. How should a person, male or female, who works as a professional nanny for wealthy people deal with the intimidation that comes along with having a slightly aggressive male father figure, or when the older teen children are bullying the nanny and parents aren't doing much? I understand that going to the placement agency can help. However, how do you lessen the intimidation when it's almost always one-on-one?
Well, that's a great question. So let me paraphrase that. So basically, like, what are some strategies to use when you're addressing the adult, the more aggressive father?
Yes.
Okay. So obviously, like, so it's really great because, you know, with my corporate experience, I do work a lot in schools, so I deal with parents a lot, fun times. So this is what I do. So it's always about making sure that you're understanding and using your personality and your communication style to help that person. So if they're being aggressive, like towards you and so if it's towards their children's, sadly it's really hard for you to address that. But if it's towards you, you can be like, you know, it sounds like you're asking, so use the power of active listening. Sounds like you're saying this and this to me, is this correct? You know, and you can say, like, diffuse the situation too. If it is really aggressive, it depends if it's aggressive or direct, because some people are just very direct. But if it's aggressive and it makes you feel uncomfortable, there's ways to use the power of communication to shift that. So an example would be sometimes parents come directly at me and say, you know, you're saying that my child's a bully, or they like start yelling and screaming at me. So step one is you want to diffuse the situation. So you'd be like, okay, so it sounds like, you know, you're upset, or it sounds like you're really angry. So let me rephrase what I said. You know, we must be miscommunicating. And then you take the approach that you're paraphrasing and bringing it back, and the power of questioning. So what is the situation telling you? Like, how can I better help you? What would be ideally we can come to a resolution? I know these are super broad questions because I don't have the specific of the dynamic, but the idea is, the model is, first, diffuse the situation, to use the power of active listening and questioning to address the situation, and 3, always have concluding thoughts like, so it sounds like you're saying this, is this correct? So that you can move along the same wavelengths of communication. I don't know if that helps. I just want to try to give some broader examples.
That's great, Dr. Peagram. Actually, we've got a plethora of questions now, so let me go ahead and go with those. From Britta Erickson. Great questions, by the way. What are some phrases or strategies that can be used when subtle sexual innuendos are used in conversation between two members of the same team in front of others? Should this be called out immediately within the group setting, or handled in private in a one-on-one conversation? Thank you.
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so I love that one. So here's two strategies. There's two different ways to approach that. One, if you're not in the conversation and they're not directed towards you, but however they do make you feel uncomfortable, I would say something in private to the person, be like, hey, I totally understand you're just joking around, but when you talk about these things in front of the group, like it makes some people uncomfortable. Or put it on yourself, it really makes me uncomfortable, and I really want us to work together. So if you can keep those conversations just between you and, let's say, Bill, that'd be great. And then after you use that strategy, see how the person reacts and if they do it again. If they do it again, they are aware of your expectations, that you clearly said that you felt uncomfortable, and now becomes a situation where you can say, like, hey, we'll just call the second person Andy. Hey, Andy, remember how we talked about that conversation? I'd appreciate, that we just wait till we're not all together to talk about that. Another strategy, I've done this myself, is I get really uncomfortable when working, especially with at-risk youth. So I donate some of my time and I work in the juvenile detention center, and it's some of the kids are very aggressive. Actually, some of the girls are really mean towards me too. But I don't think they're bad kids, and I really get upset when people label other children or even adults. They get labeled as bad kids, bullies, victims. I don't like labeling. So I get upset, especially if a child has a learning disability and they're just targeted as a bad kid. So when someone is insulting or saying, get this kid out of class, he's just a bad seed, a bad kid, I'll say, you know what? I understand why you might be frustrated, but this doesn't make me really feel, I'm not comfortable when you say that, you know what I mean? Especially if the child is present. So, next time just watch what you're saying. But that's my direct approach. And I have, in passing, addressed people on the side, be like, hey, you know what, that kid just heard you, and I think you really hurt the kid's feelings. So, I would try to use different words when you're talking about a behavior and try not to label. The second option is subtle. You're at least talking to the person, but you're sharing what you want and what the outcome of the behavior is. So that's what you really want to do. You want to address the behavior, and even give them strategy of like, hey, it's not cool when you say these kinds of sexual jokes. Like, do you mind just talking about it when I'm not around or when we're not in a team meeting? So I don't know if that helped. I know that's kind of different angles of approaching it.
Those are great strategies, Dr. Peagram. Thank you so much. And if I can just add a little bit, Britta, from an HR perspective, if these teams are on the job, please get to know how you can report situations like this if the behavior does continue, because sexual harassment is against the law, and it's not something that you should be, excuse the word, exposed to anywhere, but especially on the job. Okay, thank you, Dr. Peagram. I do have another question here from Belinda McFeeters. Hi, Belinda. You mentioned that lack of communication can create a hostile environment, not talking with direct reports. What strategies would you recommend a direct report use to address this with the manager? Another great question.
Yes, I love that question. Okay, so communication is often an issue in organizations because it can drive a lot of dysfunctions. So here's what I would recommend, and I'm going to give you a few different options and you pick which one's best for you. I would recommend, one, trying to set up meetings with your boss and have check-in times. So with my staff, I have 12 facilitators. So we do weekly check-ins. Okay, so they schedule a time on the calendar. It's like a stand-up meeting. They have 15 minutes to tell me what's going on with their reporting, and then we move on. So these check-in meetings are short, and it opens the door to communication. Another way, if you're really trying to open the door to communication with your manager, it could be like, ask for either some feedback when you're right when you're coming out of a meeting, or you've just finished work, or a reason that you're with her. Hey, can I just have 2 minutes of your time? I just want to talk about my performance and how I can better communicate with you so that we're more effective as a team. So it really depends, the boss's character, but either catch them when you're with them, either at the end of the meeting, a little beforehand, try to put something on the calendar too. Have check-in meetings. That really opens the lines of communication. And then share what you want. So always be prepared. So this is the thing that gets, so I've learned as a leader and as a manager that I get frustrated is like, I hate time wasters. Like I'm really good. I love chit-chatting when it's appropriate. But if you're coming to me, like if you're one of my employees and you're coming to me, I really want there to be like an agenda, clear goals. What do you want to talk about? And you know what? If you had a problem, maybe give me some solutions so that I know that we can work something out together. So I want it to be an effective and efficient conversation. So be prepared like that when you talk to your manager. Have a goal in mind. It could be like a 2-3 minute agenda. I'm going to talk about this, this, and this. Here are my bullet points I want to accomplish when I talk to my manager. And if they're very busy or not open, because everyone has different communication styles, you can email them your points. So for example, when I work a lot with my clients, if I have stuff to discuss and I know we have a short call, I send them the 3 points I want to address and what are my desired outcomes in the call. So hey, here I want to talk about budget, I want to talk about next steps, I want to talk about recommendations. Can you give me 15 minutes? And then by the end of the call, I can get together some new ideas for moving into the next phase of the project. Clear, concise, the email went out, we're on the phone, we know what we're talking about. So that's another idea too. I don't know if that was helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Peagram. I'm actually typing what you state, so there may be a delay when I get back to you. But thank you for that input. You make some very good points, especially, you know, we shouldn't have to ask for feedback all the time, but it's also our responsibility, if we want feedback and need feedback, to go out and ask for that feedback. Okay.
Paul, I want to add one more thing. So, because, yeah, so when it comes to communication, so like a lack of communication creates a hostile environment, and over a period of time, it might increase the likelihood of someone to bully. Like someone that's bullying, so is someone that definitely has some desire to either attention or they're disturbed, they have some issues. Research says there might be some personality disorders. It's all like on a spectrum. But if we take it and we flip side it to like the positive, how to increase communication, we have to think that never assume that the person that's sitting in front of you or your boss knows what you're thinking or knows where you're at. Because imagine how much you have on your plate in a day. Your team member, your boss, has their task list too. So by not sharing where you're at, what you're working on, and what direction you need, they might have no idea. And you know, some people are afraid to ask, but some managers don't even know where to start. I'm like, okay, like it seems like you're doing your job, you're fine, we're good. But you know, they don't even take the time to stop and think about it. And you know, there's a difference between strong leadership and management. So take the time to ask yourself, does my manager, my boss, exactly know what I'm doing, what are my deliverables, and what are next steps? What can I share quickly with them so that they know where I'm at?
Great extra information shared, Dr. Peagram. Thank you. I have one more question here right now from Miriam. And this is a very interesting one and probably one that many people have faced. Sometimes, and this is the question, sometimes unfortunately it is not as easy as that. For example, when 2 to 3 people all of a sudden find power in an organization and start firing people or downgrading others that have always done well or have gone up have been promoted up in the business. So for example, the person who's now on a higher level is bullying the people who are now lower than him or her. So what are some strategies in interacting with people like that?
That's a great question, and you are absolutely right. If there was only one strategy or a few resources to address bullying, I would be out of business. But the sad thing is it's really the situation. But on the flip side, the positive thing is it's really using your personality, your strengths to address the situation. So if I was in your shoes, I'm more direct, obviously as a leader and a manager, but I'm very kind. So I'm very kind to my clients. I'm especially kind if I'm working with kids. So I use kindness, and I know it's silly, but I love to do this. I kill people with kindness. Especially in my line of work and the different fields I work with, sometimes I come across people that are very hostile and sometimes socially inappropriate, where I don't understand why they're saying the certain things they're saying to me. And so I use the power of questioning. So, for example, I was speaking at an event, and someone's, a panelist, who was on a panel with me, had mentioned that I like to put my own videos on my LinkedIn to sometimes self-promote, which it was the tonality and the direction of that comment that was a little off. It wasn't meant to, it wasn't in good faith, let's say that way. So how I approached it was like, wow, that's an interesting comment. What made you say that? You know what I mean? Like, just questioning, you know what I mean? And then after, like, we went through all this different, like, miscommunication, I would say, the nicest way I can put it. At the end, I sent the person an email. I really thanked that person for sharing their perspective and being willing to be on a panel with me. And, I was authentic and kind, and I found the good and the value of that person. And you know what? I received a really nice email back. So instead of me thinking that person was out to get me, was trying to sabotage me, I took a different approach because I wanted the outcome to be different. And you know what? That person could have just been having a bad day. Or you know what? Sometimes we have no idea how we come across. You know what? This is a silly example, but I have to share this story because it's really embarrassing and it happened to me today. I'm sitting there with a client, and I'm talking about the programs we've been doing, the relationship I have with this organization, but I'm specifically talking about my client. And, I'm passionate about what I do, and I'm in the conversation. I go, you know what? We've really been together for 4 years, and it's been great. So, me thinking, our organizations have been together for 4 years, and it's been great. He's thinking, I'm with the client for 4 years, and it's been great. So you see how that slight uncomfortable miscommunication, you know what I mean? So then, it's really coming back like, I meant the organizations, but I could read in his body language that he thought I just admitted to be in a relationship with a client, which was I had to say it tonight, it was very embarrassing. But how I came back was I said, I mean our organizations, being in the setting of working together. And that was kind of my comeback, but it made me think how often we might say something and we mean something totally different, and there's a miscommunication. So the reaction of the other person is aggressive. So then the reaction is hard. So try to monitor and really work on your own emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Because, you can't control the people that are above you that are sabotaging you. You can quit your job. You can report them and do something about it. But if it's that of an organization so toxic that they're firing people and promoting people that are let's say, just, I don't want to label anybody, but are more prone to bully, then it's not a place I would want to work at. But if it's just a few people, then you shift your behavior and you empower yourself to make choices to be kind, direct, address the inappropriateness, and then really communicate clearly. So I know I kind of went on a tangent to explain that, but I want to give you a full picture of how things can be taken a different way. I don't know if that was helpful.
Dr. Peagram, thank you so much for that additional information. Why don't we go ahead with proceeding with your presentation?
Yeah. So I had to get a little laughs about how I embarrassed myself today, right? So let's talk about how to report it. So we talked in the beginning a little bit about documentation. So especially with adults, really learn how to take a screenshot, if with your phone, if it's with your computer. You can report it to the Better Business Bureau and see what are your options, depending on the organization too, and then look into resources. So there's tons and tons of resources when it comes to HR and reporting these incidents and addressing them. Go to your leadership team. You can go above your boss if you need to. And one thing that I truly push is you need to talk until you're heard. You deserve the respect and you deserve your own dignity, that no one can take that away from you. Don't let someone take your power away. So spend the time on really sharing how this is happening to you, how it's impacting your work. And do it until you're heard. So that's really important. So we went on back and forth about communication, about miscommunication, about sometimes how we might say certain things and we don't understand how the other person is perceiving it. So then it comes to the idea of so how do we prevent workplace bullying? So you need to create a strong team. So if you have the ability to run some team buildings, build some camaraderie, you want to build respect and trust within your team. Because if there's respect and trust, there's healthy conflict that happens. There's brainstorming. There's idea generations. There's less likely negative sabotage, ineffective conflict. There's less likely to be bullying. The opposite of bullying is team building. So building a strong team is where you want to be. Train your staff and employees on acceptable workplace behaviors. So, sometimes when I'm working with organizations, they bring me in and we want to do some conflict management and address the negative behaviors. And sometimes it comes from the leadership team. And the leaders don't even know that they're actually coming across that way. So it's really important to address that. So find some training or some webinars. I'm trying to think other different things, workshops. It really helps address what is acceptable in the workplace. Have rituals and ceremonies to celebrate individual successes or team successes. There should be some good, every time celebrate constructive feedback, positive feedback. I truly 100% recommend quarterly team buildings. And then document all the training to have evidence of employee participation. So this is the thing that I do in all my trainings. They're called recap reports. So tonight you're going to go. You went through workplace bullying. We talk about what it is, how to report it. If I was coming into your organization, there would be a detailed presentation, interactive training. You would practice the strategies, but then I would have a detailed recap report that states what we did, who participated, what were the outcomes. So that really protects you too, and especially if you're in HR, that if someone that went through my training then decides to bully someone else, to be inappropriate in the workplace, to do all these things, well, the organization did everything they could possibly do, and it's the power of that person. That's their choice of what they did because they knew better at that point. They can't say, well, it was never stated or I didn't do the training. So that's why it's important that if you're in a position and you're able to really run trainings, make sure that you have recap reports, so summary reports that state who's done the training and what were the outcomes, so that when you have these negative, toxic people in an organization, these documents can help you, support you, so that you can terminate these people. So that's something that I really strongly believe in, is documentation. There's not enough documentation in any organization, schools included, that I've seen that could really help protect the organization. And when I say organization, all the people involved that need to be protected, because we forget to write things down. So let's talk a little bit about the cost of bullying. So, it's not just the lawsuits and the wrongful terminations and all the things. It's really the cost of time and productivity. So we found some research that there's been 2 relatively recent court cases that involved workplace bullying, and the damages that were awarded were $64,000 and $325,000. So it's very, very costly for an organization when there is workplace bullying. So it's important to address it, to intervene, and always bring in training. So that's really something I'm strongly believing on, is by educating people, you can help change behaviors. So before I move into our last part, I want to talk, if there are any questions about workplace bullying.
Hi, Dr. Peagram. Yes, actually I have another question here from Victoria, another good question. How do you suggest dealing with the supervisor who simply lacks personable skills or is usually very rude-mannered in their speech, and while there have been several complaints about this person, due to workplace politics, little to no action ever seems to take place. How would you address this person to take you seriously and to just speak to you with general respect rather than belittling?
So I'm going to turn back a few questions so that I want you to ask yourself and see if this works for you. So first of all, has he been through any sort of leadership training, communication training, that he knows, I think it's a he, right, that he knows that he's being rude and disrespectful? So that's really important to question yourself. Secondly, what is his definition of respect and what is your definition of respect? So for example, one of my employees, time is critical to her. She doesn't want you to waste her time, So if she's running a meeting and I have 4 or 5 different staff showing 5 minutes late, she feels disrespected and she's upset. Well, the 4 or 5 other people were working on deadlines and tasks and they couldn't make it. So you see how they didn't feel they were being disrespectful, but she did. So it's really understanding what is your definition of respect and what is your boss's definition of respect. So maybe you don't want to get into that conversation with your boss, because it could be something you're not comfortable with. So here's what I would do. So next time that your boss addressed you in a certain way, you'd be like, you know what, how can I better communicate with you so that you get exactly what you need from me? Or what are some ideas so that we can work together so that I clearly understand what you mean? And then here's a personal strategy that I really recommend. It's understanding that it's not about you. So that, how that person is reacting or talking is really, it's not about you, it's on them. They're carrying that. And if you don't let that impact you, so if your boss is screaming, yelling at you, or name calling, worst case scenario, you just be like, that is on them. That is not on me. I don't have to carry that because I don't believe I'm like that. So if you don't believe it, then it's not true. So this is a strategy that comes across even to working with children and even children with disabilities too. It's if they don't believe it, if they don't believe they're that certain word or they're that certain behavior and they don't own it, then it's on the person that's saying it, and then they can just ignore it and move on. And you can just do your job. If he's being rude and disrespectful, be like, that's on him. I'll just get my stuff done. If you don't choose to address it. If you choose to address it, then I would go how can I better communicate with you? And you can even say, here's how I find that I would be more effective if you spoke to me this way, if you shared directions this way. That's a very brave conversation to have, but if you feel you're up to it, I'd highly recommend it. Because all you have to lose is that the behavior won't change, but at least you tried.
Thank you, Dr. Peagram. And Victoria, thank you for that very good question. I have a feeling several of us have probably faced that situation. Dr. Peagram, I have another question. What actions would you take, this is from Ryan, what actions would you take if the person doing the bullying, a peer, is not completely crossing the line, but the accumulation of behaviors as a whole add up to bullying?
That's a great question. That happens so many times. They instigate just enough. You don't have enough evidence. But if you put everything together, there's a pattern. So there's a few things. So you can address that person. You can, so when I address people, I just don't go up and confront them. You want to have evidence, facts, and then examples. So, if they're being inappropriate or mean or, kind of sneaky, you can say hey, when we're in that meeting and you made that comment, I want to understand why you said that. Why did you say that? Because this is how I took it. So you're addressing the behavior, you're asking questions, and then if they're I have no idea what you're talking about, then give specific examples. Because it's a way to give feedback to the perpetrator, be hey, this is not okay. And then you say hey, so, if you feel this way, what can we do to fix it? That's a very direct approach. if there's other behaviors and that you're like, hey, I don't know if I feel comfortable confronting the perpetrator, or if it can be your boss. Often, workplace bullying is someone that's using their power that typically have a higher title than you. Go find a mentor. Find someone else in the organization, and then like ask them how, because think about it. They're in that organization. They understand the culture. They understand the office politics. They get the dynamic. Find a mentor in the organization. And, without giving names or specifics, be like, you know what, I really like value and I inspire to have the same career path as you. I want to know what to do. What do I do in this situation? What would you do? So that's what I'm saying, like, find support. Really it's important at that point to find someone that can understand you and that can give you some sound advice. Because I'm giving you some broad strategies, and I hope that they're useful. But every situation is unique. Every organization is unique. There's so many different kinds of leadership styles, and there's so many different kinds of behaviors that occur on a daily basis that, there's not just one answer. So my strategy would be, if you go direct, address it. But if not, go find someone that you trust that can maybe mentor you so they can give you some good examples. Because you might not use what they're saying, but it might spark an idea that you feel comfortable trying.
Thank you, Dr. Peagram. Since we're getting close to the end of our time, if you would please continue with your presentation.
Yeah, no problem. So one of the things that I do want to talk about, and it's a whole big topic, is digital citizenship. So why does it tie into workplace bullying? So the problem is we're not realizing, even as adults, the stuff that we're putting online. So, some of the questions I want to finish tonight with is, how can we be better digital citizens? So what can we do to be better online? How can we be more professional and kind online? What are some strategies to get away from our devices and be more present? And what are some expectations at work to virtually respond and adhere to still find this balance, Because with the bullying behavior and workplace bullying, that's a severe situation, okay? But what's happening is, even as adults, we're putting inappropriate stuff online and we don't even realize we're doing it. So I want you to walk away tonight to better understand what is workplace bullying, but what am I doing online? And if I could take a snapshot of my social media accounts and, my emails I send out, what type of person is portrayed there? So I really want you to think about your online self, which I call the digital self, versus like, your private self. Because your digital self is like a public self, right? So you really want to make sure that it's professional, that you're sharing content that you could wear on your shirt at work, or you could scream out loud in the middle of a crowd and scream out loud and be proud of it. Because you don't want to put things that's inappropriate online, because nothing is private. And I've had many debates and I've been on many panels where I am a strong believer that it's called social media. It is public. There's leaks all the time. So be careful what you put on Instagram. Be careful what you put on Facebook. Because you don't want also anything you put online to be used and then you become a target of bullying because of the stuff that you're actually exposing to the public. So really nothing is private. So make sure that you really have a professional presence. With that said, I recommend that you Google your name and you Google the images that is out there. So put your name in and then hit image on Google. See what's out there. You're going to be so surprised of how you get linked to different things. So spend some time on really cleaning up your professional self on social media and on even the emails that you put out there. Make sure that they're professional, they're ethical, because those things, the minute you hit send or post, you can never take back. You know what I mean? It's not a he said, she said conversation anymore. There is clear evidence. So, that's why we talk about documenting everything. That's why it's important. So I really want you to start walking away and thinking, like, how can I be a better citizen online? And what am I putting out there that could potentially harm me professionally? So I want to kind of leave that open and like answer any remainder questions because I know that we are coming to the end of the presentation. But this is some food for thought of really like, what are we putting out there? And then how are we being portrayed? And then how is that impacting our workplace?
Dr. Peagram, excellent. You really hit the nail on the head with that one, because I was just reading an article that from the Society of Human Resource Management, and in a study, 95% of employers now are looking at applicants' social media, and that influences hiring decisions. So I'm so glad that you brought that into your presentation. So I'm going to ditto what Dr. Peagram said about what you're putting on social media. So if anybody has any final questions, final comments, Dr. Peagram, thank you so much for your time today. Here's a comment from Belinda. Excellent job, Dr. Peagram. Thank you for your continuous support to NCAID and to TCSPP. I ditto that.
Oh, so this was helpful. I just want to make sure that I share. You know what I found too? You know, something that I found really powerful over the years is when you just share strategies and resources to apply. It's like I love to hear stories and examples, because even though it doesn't apply necessarily to me, at least I can extract something from it and then use it. So I just wanted to make sure that I gave enough information.
I think you gave some great information. It certainly netted a lot of excellent questions. Miriam also says thank you. And while we're waiting for any additional comments, I'm going to take the screen away from you, because I just want to do a little information sharing with everybody. Okay, let me close out of this. There we go. Just to give you some information, everybody in the office, please remember that NCAID is available to assist you with your writing skills. And here's some information to contact us. It's NCADE, N-C-A-D-E, at thechicagoschool.edu. Our phone number is 312-488-6054. And we also have a website listed there. If you go to the Chicago website, you'll be able to find us that way. And we have several other, there we go, webinars scheduled and meetings scheduled. So here's a list of them. They are available and listed in the NCAID website. So I encourage you to please take advantage of these informational webinars. They're created to help you succeed in your educational program, and they're going to help you in the real world as well. So please take advantage of this, and remember that NCAID is out there to help you. Okay, let me go back and see if we have any further comments. No more questions, no more comments. Dr. Peagram, thank you again so much for your time this evening. It's always helpful. Oh, and let me just read one more thing from Belinda. Please join the NCAID staff members on the Chicago, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. campuses on Monday, November 2, for a dessert reception to celebrate NCAID's 2-year anniversary of supporting academic success. Yay! Chicago campus is on the, it will be held at the 5th floor Student Lounge, 12 to 1 p.m. Central Time. Los Angeles campus, it's to be announced. It will be from 12 to 1 Pacific Time. Washington campus, North Campus lobby from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So if nothing else, please go in and enjoy a little reception and activity with your colleagues. Thank you again, everybody. We did record this. We will make it available, and Dr. Peagram will be sharing her slides with you. So have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you at the next professional development seminar.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
You as well. Thank you.